Welcome to the podcast, A Drink with Derek. Follow comedian Derek Richards on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and don't forget to subscribe to his YouTube channel and watch all episodes of the podcast. Now grab a drink and join your host, Derek Richards.
Oh, you barnyard animals, God bless you for coming on board the show today. Welcome to the podcast, A Drink with Derek. My name's Derek Richards here in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. Make sure you find me online at DerekRichards.com. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel where all the episodes of A Drink with Derek are out there. We've got episodes with Brad Garrett, Hall of Famer Dallas Cowboy Drew Pearson, Roy Wood Jr. from The Daily Show. Again, Derek Richards. Just type on YouTube and then go into my channel and subscribe. And you get all the episodes up there, plus all kinds of other goofy stuff here as well. I've got some shows coming up I'm excited about. Ann Arbor Comedy Showcase, May 20th and 21st. Then I'm going to be in Des Moines, Iowa, June 10 and 11, working with Dave Landau, good friend of mine. And then I'll be back here in Las Vegas, June 27th to July 3rd at the Comedy Cellar at the Rio. DerekRichards.com is my website. Go there to get all my tour dates and information. Excited here today. My guest is a longtime friend of mine. He's now in Florida, Orlando, originally from up in the Minnesota neck of the woods. He has fused stand-up comedy and a cappella music, doing a thing called comedy a cappella. He's also created a presentation entitled The Power of the Smile. I've got to ask him about that. Doing comedy 32 years. Started off in January of 1990. He's a regular on the cruise ships, also in the corporate industry. Seen him on stage with the Beach Boys, REO Speedwagon, Grand Funk Railroad, and he has a brand new platform that he is starting called Open Bar Comedy. Super excited to talk to him about Open Bar Comedy and this new venture. Ron Feingold is here on A Drink with Derek.
Mr. Ron! I was getting my car fixed the other day. Very pretty girl across the desk from me making the transaction. She made me a little bit nervous. I don't want to come across as a creepy 50-year-old guy, but she was beautiful. So I make the transaction. You got to put the chip into the machine nowadays, right? So I put the card into the machine. Transaction didn't work. So I looked at the pretty young girl. I'm like, what's happening? Why didn't it work? And she looked at me like she had a secret. And she smiled and she said, you didn't put it in all the way. I'm a stand-up comedian, y'all. You can't say stuff like that to me and not get a smart-ass remark back. So I smiled at her. I flirted a little bit. I bit my lip. Well, what am I supposed to do then? She kept a flirt on. She kept smiling at me like she still had that secret, and I maintained my eye contact. And she smiled and she said, well, you gotta take it out. You gotta put it back in. Oh my God, I can't believe this is happening, right? Keeping my cool, and I keep my flirt, and I look at that girl, and I took the card out, and I went, oh yeah, baby. If you like it. And just then, my wife was like, can we go? And I'm walking my dog in my neighborhood. I have two boxers, and I'm walking my girl. And she decides to take a pee on the neighbor's yard. And they happen to be on the front porch watching everything go down. It's awkward. How are you supposed to act when somebody's watching your dog taking a pee? What are you supposed to do? I don't know what to do, right? So she breaks the silence. She breaks the awkwardness. She's like, hey, you tell your dog not to pee on my yard? And I said, ma'am, I have no control over where she decides to go. I don't really know what you're expecting me to do. Like, slide my hand underneath and catch it all? She was serious. She goes, no, just tell your dog not to pee on my yard. So then the comedian smartass part of my brain kicks in. I'm like, well, when I get her home, I'll sit her ass down. We'll have a fucking talk. She didn't laugh like you did. So, 2 days later, we're walking again. She decides to take a number 2 in the same spot. Yeah, and sure as shit, they're on the front porch watching it. They're still there watching everything go down. These people need a hobby. So it's awkward again. She's doing her thing. So I broke the silence this time. I looked up at the porch. I said, hey, we had the talk. As you can see, she said she doesn't really give a shit.
I love that shirt. I thought I've got some loud shirts. That is a shirt that can be seen from space, my friend.
Yeah, I was going to the casino later, and I wanted to blend into the carpet.
Mission accomplished. Ron Feingold, good to see you, my friend. There's one other picture. I want to pull this up. Sean and I were looking through stuff. Sean, our producer in Florida, who does a brilliant job putting this thing together. Sean has we were pulling this picture. We were both dying laughing. Sean, pull this up. What are you looking at? That is I don't know if that is extreme excitement or the creepiest look that anybody would see right before you stick him in the eye with a knife.
Yeah, so I am known for my facial expressions, and this is something I consciously do not even think about. It just happens. This is not on purpose. It just happens. That's a natural expression on stage of me just being goofy, I guess. But if I had $1 for every time somebody has come up to me after a show and said, "Oh, do you know you look like Rodney Dangerfield a lot with your eyes?" I'm like, yeah, I hear it all the time. So the eyes always get me the Rodney Dangerfield reference. But yeah, he was a great comic, but an ugly son of a bitch. But
if you're going to be compared to anybody, that's a good comparison. But that picture,
yeah,
Sean and I were both dying laughing. I go, I got to ask what he's looking at. I go, that is a creepy look right before somebody gets in the van with you.
It is. That's why I never have problems with women approaching me after shows.
Yet you're married, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. You're married to a former Minnesota Viking cheerleader. We'll get into that here in a little bit. But before we do get started, I always like to throw in these 3 random questions. Normally, I do this at the end of the episode, but with you, Ron Feingold, they come in out of the gate. These are 3 questions from the hilarious game Cards Against Humanity. So answer any way you see fit. There's no wrong answer. It's just the answer that comes out of your pie hole. My friend, question number 1, what gets better with age?
What gets better with age? I have to be serious with it. Like wisdom. Wisdom gets better with age. The things that I'm learning older in age are like later on in this stage of life are actually leading to things that will help me later on. The things that I learned in my 20s and 30s never even helped me at this age right now. So the things that I'm learning right now, I really feel are helping me towards, later on, like crypto is a good example. But so wisdom now is better with age as opposed to wisdom from a young age.
Well, that's going to be the smartest answer you're going to give because these next 2 questions don't give any opportunity for that. Recent laboratory study shows that undergraduates have 50% less sex after being exposed to blank.
DDT.
Question
Herbicides.
number 3. Question 3. When all else fails, I can always masturbate to blank.
Sylvia Saint.
Got it. Okay, cool. I know that look over your shoulder has got to be you looking for your wife, so I'm assuming that. Got it. Not a problem. Not a problem,
she just
my
lost
friend.
her privileges watching this now.
Done. It's all about having a good time. RonFeingold.com is your website. You've got a lot of stuff on your plate right now. You keep yourself busy for everything. I mean, we met in St. Cloud, Minnesota. years ago. And I
Yes.
can't remember the name of the gig. It was a bar gig, and there was a room upstairs that had that was doing comedy. We had a great time hanging out, learned a lot watching. This has got to be back in, what was it, maybe 1996, maybe?
Yeah, it was totally around there,
It's got to be
95,
something like that.
96.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you're from up in that neck of the woods, correct? You're from Minnesota originally, or no?
No, no. I'm an Air Force brat, so I moved around a lot. And
Colorado
I
Springs.
was
That's right, correct?
right. So I was living in Colorado Springs for most of my formative years and got involved in the Colorado comedy scene when I first started at 19 years old. So I was playing places like the Comedy Works, or at least trying to get into the Comedy Works. But my hometown club is Looney's in Colorado Springs. And that's where I make my annual summer pilgrimage back there and do shows. But Colorado Springs is home, but I moved around a lot as a kid, and then I met my wife Laura on a cruise ship, and that's how I ended up in Minnesota. Was
Okay.
yeah, that's the only thing that'll bring me to Minnesota is love.
Well, I was asking because I remember that's where we met, and I remember you were living there at the time, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I was. We were
Okay.
engaged and we got married in 1997. So we were just engaged and we met in February of 96. So I must have met you right after that because I moved in with her maybe 3 or 4 months after we met in Minneapolis. So I was doing, and that was a Doug McCraw gig. So, and a college gig, man, that was a scary gig. Um, I remember getting in a car with a stranger after one of those gigs in St. Cloud. It was a college kid, and they're like, "Hey, come on, we'll go smoke some pot in our car." So we get in his car, and this guy is smoking a bowl in his car, and there's a cop right behind us, and he could care less. It was a scary thing. So I'm like, you know what? Let me out over here. I'm done with this. It was a scary thing, but yeah, that is where we met, and then you. You took off with your career and surpassed it 1 year later.
It was a well, it was that was a fun time. It was a fun gig. It was fun to watch you, fun to hang out, and learned a lot watching you. And then now I wanted to ask you this: what comedian did you first learn something valuable from, whether it was positive or negative?
All right. Um, I worked with Jimmy Walker back in my Tribble days, and I
Tribble,
just
by the
got
way, is
back
a
from.
booker that is no longer in the game, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's done. I think
Yeah,
he actually retired. But Tribble's a
yeah, he
guy,
did.
for the layperson who is watching and listening to this podcast, he's a guy that would have gigs scattered all over the country, predominantly in like you in Montana, Wyoming, Washington
Mhm.
State, Oregon. And he would have you like you would do gigs. You would do a gig like say in Billings, Montana on a Wednesday, and then have to be in outside of Seattle on Thursday. Some of these
That's
drives
exactly
were
right.
like nearly impossible. So just a little backstory on Tribble for people that don't know who this person was. Dave Tribble, who's super nice guy, but yeah, he had you
Yeah,
run all over the country, and you would barely. There were some gigs that that I recalled. I was never a part of that, but there were some gigs that I had heard that if you did not leave almost at 5 in the morning, there was no
yeah,
way you were going to get there
yeah.
in time to be on stage.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely true. 100%. And I had just gotten back from a Funny Bone date in Davenport, Iowa, and I just got back to Colorado. And I just got a call from David Tribble. He's like, "You want to work 3 days with Jimmy Walker up in Montana? Well, good. Go pick him up at the airport and take him to the Holiday Inn. And you guys are going to work 3 days together in Montana doing a little Montana tour." I'm like, "I'll do it. I want to work with Jimmy Walker. I got to do this." So working with him made me realize over those 3 days that he was the comedian of the decade. He was on Good Times. He was like the Richard Pryor of his day, and he was huge. I mean, Time Magazine's comedian of the decade in the 70s. And the lesson that I learned is that life comes full circle for everybody, no matter who you are. So you're the comedian of the decade in the 70s, and now in the mid 90s, you're in a Geo Metro hatchback with Ron Feingold doing 3 days for David Tribble. And that's what brought me down to earth that, this comedy and fame and all of this stuff is fleeting, and it's got a facade to it. And you too could end up in a 3-door hatchback Geo Metro with Ron Feingold 20 years later. So take it take it for what it is, and enjoy the ride with it. And that's what I took from that whole experience, is like, look at this guy. He was, everything, and now he's here with me doing, these low money gigs with that. So
Right.
it brought it all into perspective.
No, it definitely does. What was your life before stand up? I mean, you just started when you were 19 years old. Were you you come out of high school and just immediately got into doing stand up? I mean, your parents must have wanted to kill you.
So I did, I was the theater geek in high school. So I did forensics and duet acting, and I was in every musical, and I was in every kind of production in high school that was a play. I was an actor. So I didn't get into stand up until my 19th birthday. And when I turned 19, I joined the CERT's college comedy competition that came to my college. It happened to be on my birthday, my 19th birthday. And I'm sorry, my dog's going nuts. So
is your house getting broken into? Should you actually take a look and see what he's losing his mind over? Okay, I would hate to have this. I mean, this would be the most popular episode ever if somebody was breaking into your house right now and just started stealing crap from behind you, but you're so focused on the talk that you're not paying any attention to the fact that someone's lifting a lifting a safe deposit box from behind you.
So when I was 19, I got into that college competition, and I took third place. But you know how it was your first time when you did comedy and you got your first big laugh. It's like a shot of heroin, I would imagine, because you want to get that every time you get on stage again. You wanted to go back up more and more. So there's a bunch of people that are addicted to comedy, and you can, there's a lot of careers that started, like I did in college at a young age. So I hit the road the day that I left, the day that I graduated from college. So when I graduated, I think I had like a triple run that I had to do. And, I was making like $250 a month. I'm sorry, a week. And will you go away, please? Jesus fucking Christ.
By the way, your wife walked by, and then a man walked behind her. So what would make this even better is if she was having an affair while you're doing this podcast.
That's my son, but thank you. Even grosser. But, yay, Florida.
Yay, Florida.
Yeah, or Arkansas, whatever you want to do. So anyway, I don't even know what I was talking about anymore. So getting
You're
started
talking about the CERT's comedy competition, getting that first addictive laugh, and then having it take off from there and running off and doing triple gigs and stuff like that too.
Yep. So I graduated from college in '93, and I hit the road the day after, and just starved in my car, and was making like $200 a week for these MC gigs that I was taking, and just starved for the first 5 or 6 years until I met my wife, and we met on a cruise ship that I was working on. But life was horrible when I got into stand-up comedy. I had a girlfriend that was cheating on me when I got on the road. So from '93 to '94, I had a girlfriend that had 5 affairs on me while I was on the road for my first year as a full-time stand-up comic. So went through trauma and hell and sleeping in my car half of the year. So if anybody says I haven't paid my dues, they can really, kiss my ass.
How did you find out about this? About her? Because this is now, you're going back into the 90s. So you're looking at, this wasn't exactly an era of social media and people taking videos of, hey, I saw your girl with this dude hanging outside an Applebee's. I don't know why your girlfriend would have an affair outside an Applebee's, but this is a time before that. So did it just come to light and she confessed it, or did your friends tell you about this, or what happened?
You can always, I can always tell when this particular person was lying to me, and it was very apparent. It's just very obvious when somebody's checked out of a relationship. So this was the 4th and 5th time, and she was acting like that the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd time. So it was pretty obvious what she was doing. But she came out and told me about one of the affairs, and then she came out maybe a week or two later because she was still acting weird about the whole thing. It was like, well, I didn't really tell you the whole thing. There was another guy there too. It wasn't a woman; it was a guy. There were two guys.
Oh boy.
So that's, I mean, comics. We can be suicidal on the road, and that's exactly when I was.
Uh-huh.
I was. It was such a dichotomy of my life, being suicidal and then going to tell jokes at night. And being close to marrying this bitch, and then thank God I got out of it.
Well, what's so crazy is people don't realize. I mean, if you're in a band and you're playing guitar and you're not singing and you can just go up there and just play the chords and follow what your bandmates are doing, and you're going through some personal trauma, that's one thing. But like you said, when you're going through something like that and you got to go up and tell jokes and make people laugh, that's a whole
Yeah.
different switch that needs to be thrown instantly,
Yeah.
right before you go
Yeah.
up on stage.
Exactly. And especially when I wasn't particularly that good at it yet. I had to really put a lot of stress and time and
Sure.
energy into, getting myself prepared to get that mediocre set when I was first, 2 or 3 years in. So
Sure.
comedy was rough in the beginning until things got so much better as I kind of expanded my horizons and what I was doing with, the acapella stuff that I do.
Right. When did you start doing that? Because out of the gate you weren't doing that. Your comedy
No,
acapella
I was just
fusing
doing impressions.
music
Yeah.
was stand-ups. You were just doing impressions and things like that. But I mean, so now you've used the impressions in with the music and stuff like that too. How did that even become something that popped onto your radar?
Yeah. So I learned after 4 or 5 years in comedy that the people that were getting noticed are the ones that are doing something unique that's not, part of that fray, part of, what
Right.
everybody's doing, which was observational comedy or impressions. I was another white observational comic. So I was thinking, how can I make myself different? I don't play guitar, but I love a cappella music. How can I combine the two to make, because I love doing parodies and impressions. How can I combine all of those things together and I can do all of the parts? I've trained my voice where I can sing the bass, the baritone, the tenor, the alto, soprano parts. If I can somehow combine all of these things together into a show, I think it would be great. So in the beginning, I had a CD player and I recorded my music with my vocal music teacher from high school. And I had a CD player of my songs from my first album, and it was just the backups, and I would sing the lead vocal lives with a stupid CD player playing behind me. It's actually
Right.
right here.
Wow.
So,
Oh,
and
that's
it
got to go
was,
in Smithsonian.
yeah, yeah, it should. This will be auctioned someday. So it even has my songs and the numbers on there of, all of that
The
stuff.
track list on it.
So
Oh, that's
yeah,
great.
that's
Oh, look at that.
that's yeah.
Wow, I
So
had one of those Discman players. Those were great.
yeah, man. These were all timed pieces and everything. And then I had a radio DJ tell me, you got to get a foot pedal looper. It's all digital now. So I went and kind of converted over to the digital world, and it revolutionized my show because I can now create a song in front of people with the new technology. So I can now
Oh, nice.
perform and create a song with all of the vocals and layer it now with this foot pedal looper that I use with my foot. So, yeah, I decided, all of those people that are different in comedy, from your George Carlins to your Gallaghers to your Roseanne, all of these people do something different that nobody else does. So I said to myself, how can I set myself apart from everybody else? And that's how I came up with the acapella stuff.
Well, that's got to be a logistical nightmare because you and I both do some of these horrific one night shows at these bars. We still do. I love doing them. People are like, do you still do that? I'm like, yes, this place makes me laugh. I have a good time here. People come out to see a
Yeah.
show. Doesn't matter whether it's a theater or or Joe's bar at the corner. If they're there to have a good time, the show goes fantastic. So for you to be able to have this technology and the sound and stuff like that, and you got to plug it in. And sometimes they're like, oh, yeah, here's our sound system. And it's a cord coming from the back of the bar that just goes over the bar and they hand it to you. And you're like, hey, where's the mixing board? And they just, like, you need a mixer? I got a blender.
Yeah.
No, a mixer. Where can I plug in?
Yeah.
And they just have no clue what you're talking about. How do you make that happen at that point? Do you just go ahead and revert to your old style of comedy and just bail on the music, or are you also so self-contained now that you can make it happen anywhere?
Well, yeah, thank goodness I have enough material to cover it if I have to. Usually, I have an hour and a half, 2 hours of just stand up that's aside from the music that I do. But I've shown up in Bismarck, North Dakota before, and they had one of those podiums, that
Quit
with the
bragging.
speaker. Yeah, oh yeah. And it's a podium. And so I had a boombox in my car, and I had to put the podium's microphone up to the boombox for the music and then just sing out without a microphone. It was so like goodwill comedy. It was horrible. So I've learned though that I can plug into any system though with the stuff that I bring, or I bring my own sound system now. I have a little portable system that I can bring if the gig doesn't really support what I do. I have a two-speaker system. I can just plug it all in and I'm self-contained. But back in the day, I had these horrible things. But if they had a microphone that I could plug into, like a microphone cord, I could usually
Right.
use that and have some kind of connections. But I have all kinds of adapters, all kinds of cords, every kinds of input that you can imagine. It was a nightmare, but I figured it out because I have all of the connections now and I take them with me. You'll notice every musician has a big bag of shit with them because of
Oh
that
yeah.
exact thing, because we need all the backup stuff. So that's what I do.
Well, now your stuff would be tailor made for corporate stuff, which you do. You do corporate events. You've got a presentation now that you do now called the Power of the Smile, which I want to ask you about that here in a second. But have you ever had a corporate show that just went completely in the tank,
Yeah, yeah. I
where you
had
thought it was going to go
well,
fantastic?
actually,
You're like, okay, I am all set. This is going to be amazing, and then it just derails. And
well, I
if
can't
if a
say.
show goes bad, if a show goes bad in a comedy club, just for the layperson that's listening to this or watching the podcast, if you do a comedy show at a comedy club or a one nighter or a bar that goes in the tank, it's like, whatever, getting paid a couple few $100, no big deal. If a show goes in the tank at a corporate event where you're making good money, I mean really good money, that feels
Yeah,
10 times as worse. It feels 10 times as bad just because of the surroundings that you're in and the money that you know you're making. And when you know it's going
yeah,
south, you're like, oh, this is just the worst. So
yeah.
so so
There's
continue your
so much at stake.
corporate event nightmare, corporate event meltdown nightmare.
There's so much at stake, and you're so right, because if it's like $4,000 or $5,000, they're like, and this goes really bad. These people feel cheated out of $4,000 or $5,000, and you're getting paid anyway, no matter how it goes. So there's two different stories. One of them, I did a show for Coachman Industries, and it was just me. And I had done no preparation beforehand. And this is when I learned that you need to prepare beforehand and ask more questions, because the guy I was making fun of in front had a cigar, and he's just an old guy with a cigar. So I started making fun of him, and I found out later on he is the president and CEO of Coachman Industries, and nobody is laughing in the audience. So I learned to just leave that guy alone. But by that time, it was too late. I was the asshole. So after the show, and after about 30 or 40 minutes, I bailed. And a woman comes up to me afterwards, and she's like, "Did you even know that that was the president and CEO of Coachman Industries? He's responsible for all of those people's pay and their salaries and their livelihoods, and you're making fun of him. So you're an asshole." Yeah, I'm like, oh God. So I'm like, who do you want to? You want me to fill out a W-9 or anything? So it's horrible. So the other thing is you remember musical comedians of comedy tour. So Michael Mack, who is a musical comedian, guitar act, and a guy named Kier, who is also another musical comedian and guitar act, who and are friends of ours. We did a corporate show where we were paid about it was almost $10,000, and
Woo,
we were supposed to
nicely
go in
done.
there. Yeah, but we go in there and there's all these people hanging out in the very back at the bar, and maybe 20 people watching us. And also the booker, the guy, that the agent, was there watching all of this. And 30 minutes in, he comes backstage to us and he goes, "They want you to stop." And we go, "Screw you. We've come this far. We're gone this far. We're going to finish this show. We're at least going to finish this bit that we have and do our closing." So we did like an extra 15 minutes with barely anybody watching in a room full of 200 people. And most of them were in the back by the bar, not caring at all. And 20 people watching. horrible. So, and they didn't care that they were blowing all that money. They just wanted us gone. Just go and spend as much money on room service as you want. Just get out of here.
That's a great per
So,
person rate. That's $500 per person. At
yeah,
about
yeah.
at about 10 grand, my public school education is still figuring out at 10 grand with 20 people watching, you got $500. You got $500 a head. That's
Oh, that's
impressive.
good. I'm
Why did
glad
you
you
not?
figured that out.
What made you not bail? Because if someone says, "Yeah, you got to stop," I'm like, "Done. Show's over."
You know what? We were just gonna hate fucking with our comedy. That's all we were gonna do. If you really hated this, you're gonna hate this last part that we prepared for you.
Watch this. That's beautiful. Well, you had the tour with these other two guys, the musical comedians of comedy. How was it working and traveling with two other musicians? Because you guys are a pain in the ass. You really are. You
Yeah,
as
yeah,
a
we were.
yeah, musicians are extremely difficult to deal with. But no, I mean, how was that with your personalities? I mean, you all got together. It's one thing when you get together and you see people at a comedy club and you go, "Hey, we're good buddies." But when you travel with someone, that's a whole different animal.
Yeah. There was only one or two times where the whole thing came to blows, and there were plenty of arguments that went on. And you could probably put this as without mentioning any names. You, Derek
I
Richards,
got you.
would probably know who the common denominator is. But there were, you have three different egos and
Sure.
three different personalities. It was very difficult. So, and one person doing most of the work as far as logistics and bookings and management and travel and all the other things. So, it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
sustainable, but it was a pain in the ass. I mean, I know why people, don't last long as bands or groups. And, kudos to you for the Irish tour for staying together so long. And doing it for so long, because it's hard to keep a group together. So, but yeah, it was an experience, and I had a great time doing it. And we had I think the thing that I'm most happiest about is we had some rock and roll moments. And if you know comedians that want to be rock stars want to be comedians, and comedians want to be rock stars. And that's the general rule. And I am
It's true.
so guilty of that, because I wanted an arena and I wanted to turn the lights out and I wanted to hear the crowd roar. And we got some of those moments, in this thing. But we also got the opposite end of the spectrum with some horrible things. Like we did a NACA convention, which is college kids, like doing a convention in front of college kids, and they're
Oh
booking
yeah.
the entertainment for their colleges. So
Mm-hmm.
three almost, well, actually, Kira's 55, almost 60 years old. And the other guy, Michael Mack, is 55 or something like that at the time, or 52. And I was 45 at the time. So these old men are coming to this college thing. And Michael has this thing where he strips his pants off and he's got a puppet, singing out of his crotch. And you should have seen the looks on the faces of these children in the audience. They were just horrified, because Kira invited them all to come to the front of the stage and have a rock star kind of thing. You're all standing in front of us. And then Michael pulls his pants off. And they're like, ah! So they all just hightail it back to their their chairs. It was the funniest thing to watch everybody just leave.
And this is years ago. So this has got to be at
Oh
least,
yeah.
you're talking, what, maybe,
2008.
yeah. So you're talking 13, 14 years ago. And can you imagine doing that now in this landscape?
Oh no. Yeah. We would
He
totally have a
whips his
lawsuit
pants
on
off
it.
in front of, he'd still be in jail.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
Which, by the way, that
I'm
maneuver
surprised.
would get him, that maneuver would make him very popular in county lockup.
Yeah. The thing is we had some amazing experiences with I mean, just his bit and watching the people's reaction to it, because
Right.
it's one of the best closers in show business. But I wouldn't trade the experiences, but I would never go back and do it again.
Well, it's so funny. And we joke around about comedians always bust each other's balls. And I was relentless with Michael Mack for years and years and years, because I had always said, because his closing bit is hilarious. It's you got to see it. Pull up Michael Mack and closing bit on YouTube. I'm sure it's on there. You'll find it. But I always said, Mack, you know what? Your act is 38 minutes of people trying to find a nice way to ask for their money back, followed by 7 minutes of, that was okay. And he hated me for saying that, but I was like, I just like busting. If I don't like you, I'm not gonna bust your balls. So to me, that was just it
Right.
was just a fun. It's just how we connect as comedians. The You were talking about just great experiences. There's a great picture. I want to pull this up, Sean. You met George Carlin.
Yeah.
What was that encounter?
Okay, so that was at the Bob Phillips, the Dr. Phillips Center. The Bob Phillips is somebody else. The Dr. Phillips Center
Another
in
comedian, good
Orlando,
friend of mine,
Florida.
and yours as well. But okay, no, this Dr. Phillips thing, Dr. Phillips
Yep.
Center. Go ahead.
So he had a show, and I was working. I just got to Florida, and I was actually working as a guidance counselor and a comedian at the same time. And I got my master's in counseling, and I was trying to buy a house. So I was working as a counselor to get a house. So I was working with another counselor that had met George Carlin 30 years before. So he put together this card, if you will, and it had the pictures of him and Carlin together. And he told a story of how I'm working with this guy. He's also a comedian. It would be his lifelong dream to meet you if you have time before or after the show. So he gives this card to the stage manager before the show, before Dennis Blair goes on stage and opens up for Carlin. So in between the shows, after Dennis Blair, who is a guitar act, who is now a friend, he opened for Carlin for 18 years. And he goes on stage, and then the stage manager comes out and says, "Hey, you guys want to come on back?" He finds us where our seats were, and he's waving the card, and we wave him down. And we go back there, and I was so nervous meeting him. And George was super nice. And he goes, "So you're a comedian?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm nowhere, near where I need to be, but I would love to work with you someday." I was trembling, I was shaking like a leaf. So we're shaking hands in this picture, and I was trembling, and he kind of grabbed my hand and squeezed it, like, "Relax, it's just me." He could tell how nervous I was. He could tell what a freaking puss I was, just because I was so nervous. He was my hero, man. And so just to meet him and be in the same room with him was just life altering. So he was so kind and gentle and laid back, and that's how I heard he was. But I couldn't get over it. I was too happy. So we took the quick picture, and as you can see, he was thrilled to meet me, and then I left.
He's a great guy. I've heard nothing but solid things about him. I mean, you were actually meeting. Listen, you had a legitimate reason to be like you said, trembling, because he was literally one of the faces on the Mount Rushmore of comedy for me, anyway. I mean, I'd put him up there with Richard Pryor, and then you could rotate the other two faces with whoever happens to be popping on the radar right now. But no, it's to meet Carlin like that, and Dennis Blair, who is hilarious and who was also on the podcast. So I recommend anybody get a chance to pull up A Drink with Derek and see the episode with Dennis Blair, who was George Carlin's opening act for nearly 20 years. Funny episode. Great stories of him with Rodney Dangerfield, and also with Carlin here as well. Which brings me to this, because you just recorded Dennis Blair.
Yeah.
Recently for the specials that you're doing on this platform that you have started, Open Bar Comedy. I want to go ahead and pull up the logo here, which looks super slick. Open Bar Comedy. It's funnier in here. And
Yes.
it's a great logo. Super, super cool. Let's take that down, Sean, before we bring up the flyers of the other recordings that are coming up here. You just did, okay, well, here we go. We got the one coming up on May 31st with Frankie Paul, Jody White, and Paul Jansen. And then the next one is going to be Caroline Picard, Troy Thirdgill, Charlie Weiner. Troy is a dear friend of mine, one of the funniest people. The other two are hilarious also. I've known them through the years, but Troy is a good friend of mine. McCurdy's Comedy Club down in Sarasota, Florida. McCurdy's Comedy Theater is where these tapings are taking place. So tell me about Open Bar Comedy. What is this?
Okay, so if you are an informed consumer of comedy, which I assume if you are watching or listening to this podcast, then you might be. And what's happening is there is a alternate platform that also does stand-up comedy clips and specials, but they are in the clean niche. They do clean comedy. And I realized that I think that there's also a niche and a larger market for comedy that is just freedom of expression and comedians being themselves and not changing their acts or cleaning up their acts, which a lot of us really have to do to fit that other format. I personally think that comedians are more comfortable in their own skin and being themselves with the act that they usually do in comedy clubs across America. So what I decided to do is come up with an alternative platform called Open Bar Comedy, which, as the name connotates, allows comedians to open up their freedom of expression and say whatever they want. I do not feel comfortable telling comedians to not say or say certain things. It's like telling somebody how to paint something. I would never be so incredulous to tell a painter how to paint his painting or how to make a musician sing their song. And the same thing goes for a comedian and their jokes. I am in no position, nor should anybody be in any position, to tell somebody how to create our art form the way that we do it. So Open Bar Comedy is a platform for that kind of freedom of expression, and for comedians to not have to change their acts as well. So we decided to, follow the model of dropping a whole bunch of social media clips of the comedy content that we're filming. And I approached a place called McCurdy's Comedy Club in Sarasota, Florida. And they have 3 wonderful cameras that are built into their theater, which is, in my opinion, one of the top 5 comedy clubs in America, as far as how well supported they are, the reputation that they have. And they treat you and I like family and not hired help. And that's one of the things that I always appreciate in anywhere that I go back to, especially on a continual basis, is a place that treats me like I'm a family member, as opposed to just, he's the next guy here for the week. And, here's the condo, there's the keys, get out of my face. It's not like that there. It's a family.
Right.
And that's why it feels so good to shoot there and do our specials. And the town supports us. So we did our first special with all of these wonderful cameras on April 26th, as well as Dale Jones. We have comedians that are filming during their weeks when they work at the club. So Dale Jones had his week at the club, and we filmed 2 standing ovation shows that he did. And on April 26th, we filmed 3 comedians doing a half-an-hour set for their specials. And that was Julie Scoggins, Dean Napolitano, and Dennis Blair. And all 3 of them, we had an amazing audience of almost 180 people, and they all just knocked it out of the park. You could just feel the energy in the cameras. So we're going to launch in January of 2023. There's also an NFT component to this. I don't know if we talked about it much, but there's, if you're into the crypto space, we're creating galleries of the content of the comedians with pictures, live performance pictures, 45-second to 60-second video moments, like a punchline or a heckler moment of something that happened during their set on the stage. And also their entire specials will be minted into NFTs and offered up in galleries as collectibles at nftcomedians.io, which is our NFT website, where all of these will be available in January as well for people to buy into a comedian with crypto. And it's not only buying a joke or a piece of artwork that is, comedy related that you can show your friends, like a joke or an entire special that you can show your friends, but it's also a crypto asset, which means it can gain in value if you hold on to it over time. So we're trying to create the collectibles as well as having, a financial revenue stream as well for our comedian.
That's a great idea. I have not, of all the things that I have seen fused together through the years, having an NFT component put together with this platform is extremely interesting. Which I think this is cool, because people will say, "Well, listen, this is open bar comedy. Okay, I can watch specials on Comedy Central, Hulu, Netflix, all that stuff." This is actually something that's not being dictated by the quote unquote industry. It's not an agency that is behind it. It's not your William Morris. It's not your Gersh. It's not APA, who are fantastic agencies, but they have a direction that they want their people to go in. They have certain acts that they are throwing out to the masses. And now in this woke society that we live in now, it's like, okay, hang on. Okay, wait, no, let's go back. Here's your mid-50s white guy doing observational comedy. That's not going to sell. I need a tranny Mexican who identifies as an Irish Canadian with 3 penises. That's what I need. If I can do that,
right.
And they were a lesbian for 2 weeks back in May. That's exactly the person
Yeah.
that I'm looking for. So this is
Right.
cool because this is I mean, you're looking at these people that you're filming. You have Dennis Blair, you've got Dean Napolitano, Julie Scoggins, hilarious, who you just filmed, Dale Jones, one of the funniest people that I've ever seen on stage, and then
Mhm.
these are the lineups that you have coming up here as well. It's good to see these people that are funny, have been out there working the road for a long time, having their
Yeah.
opportunity to record a special and get it out on a platform.
Yes, there are a ton of unknown comedians that have been circling this country in the lower 48 for 30 plus years, actually, some at 40 and 50 years, entertaining that nobody knows about that are such seasoned performers. That's one of the reasons why I wish Ron Schock was still alive, because he would be the first one that I would shoot. Because Ron Schock was one of those guys that never became a household name, that was one of the most brilliant comedians that ever lived,
Yeah.
and was one of the greatest that ever hit the stage. And it's a shame to me that more people don't know who he was. So, in the spirit of Ron Schock, I have legends that should have had specials a long time ago, such as Charlie Wiener, Caroline Picard. I want to get people like Bobby Collins, Bobby Slayton to come up and be free with their language and say whatever they want. I think they would have, limitations if they went to another platform. So I have a legends section. I have, different kinds of acts in different categories, but all of the acts that you will see on Open Bar Comedy are those seasoned veterans, 95% of them, that are the seasoned veterans that have never gotten a special, that should have had one a long time ago. Dale Jones should have been a household name a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, that hasn't happened. And my hope and goal is to make sure that that happens on our platform, and have something viral happen like it did for Brad Upton on the other platform.
Now, how does this work as far as and I know it's going to go live come January of 2023. Is this a pay site that people go on, like the other comedy platform that is focusing on doing the very, very clean stuff? How does this
Mhm.
work? How does the consumer get to this? What's the avenue?
Sure. So we're following the exact same model that the other one does, and a few other things as
And
well.
why not? It
So
works.
it does. And this is the way the system works, and it's driving traffic to one place. So we're going to really be focusing on our YouTube channel, which is where longer clips of our specials will live. Some specials will have will live entirely on a YouTube channel, but only a few. Most of those are going to be 5 or 6 minute or less clips that we will have on the YouTube channel. And then we're going to flood all of the other social media channels, which would be Instagram Reels, Facebook Reels, TikTok, which is going to be a big one for us. And all of
Sure.
those are going to point and direct traffic towards our YouTube page where they can watch more stuff.
Nice.
In addition to those four things that we mentioned, we'll also have a subscription site that is being built right now as we speak, that will also contain all of the specials in their entirety. So we're going to have 40 specials in the bank in the subscription site ready to go. And that'll be a $40 a year subscription site where somebody can go and to that website or the app and access all of the specials as they come on board over the next year. Our plan is to do hopefully 60 to 70 specials in 2023 to add to that, which will give us over 100 specials in the bank. And, hopefully we can add more and more every year. So, it's going to take us a while to get the library that we want, but, it's kind of like a pyramid thing. Short social media blast in all of the areas of social media, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and then putting that towards the YouTube stuff. And then if people want, they can get the subscription site. So it's a multi-tiered approach.
Now, is stuff going to be available on, say, satellite radio, Spotify, Pandora, these other outlets? I mean, how does that work? Because I know that the other platform, the very, very clean comedy platform, has inroads with these other
Right.
channels. And so I like how we're just dancing around this and not saying the name of it,
I love it too.
which makes me laugh. But no, because because I know, like, on satellite radio, if you can get into a good rotation with them, you can make some decent money. So, I mean, is that
Correct.
something that is in the works right now, or what is the what's the goal as far as getting on these other outlets?
Yes, that is in the plans, not in the works. Um,
Gotcha.
it's the eventual goal. So the Roku, the Fire Stick, the Apple TV stuff, all of those streaming services is what we hope to eventually sell under that open bar application name, and that is eventually down the road once we have a pot to piss in. So it's not there yet, unfortunately, but we're building, and that's the eventual goal, though, is to take that content. But the biggest thing that I always want to be known for, and I'll put it on any platform, and I'll put it into perpetuity, is that I always want to be known for being the guy that pays his comedians right and fairly. All of my contracts with my comedians are completely transparent, and I want to make sure that they're paid right. So our production costs aren't as high as any other platform. We have a really great production value for
Sure.
a third of the cost. But I also want to be known for splitting that revenue with my comedians once I've paid off that revenue. Once I paid off that cost, that I'm splitting revenue correctly with everybody, and especially with the NFT stuff, because none of us, I can't say none of us, the majority of us do not have retirement or 401ks or anything saved up in a savings plan. And these NFTs are, if we do it right and time it right in the coming year or two, can get us in on a ground floor that people can start investing in. Because once these NFTs become rare, the comedians will start making commissions and have something that can make them money into their retirement and not have to worry about it. So I feel good
See what I'm
about
going to
that
do?
part.
Well, you should feel good about it. You know what? I feel good about having you on recorded saying all this good stuff about sharing the wealth with comedians. So when you're on in the Caymans hiding from the authorities, and I can go ahead and forward this link to everybody that got completely screwed over by you, they can just
Yeah.
have this as evidence when they bring it to their attorneys. But no, I think this is super cool. It's a great outlet for a lot of very, very funny people that have not gotten the recognition that they deserve, who just do their thing and are just funny people. And it's cool because I like seeing this, because I was talking to comedian Tim Wilkins the other day, who was on our last episode, and just talking about different people in our business that have pivoted and have found ways to make money that branch out besides having a TV show, having a career in movies like like a Kevin James or Bill Burr or Dave Chappelle, stuff like that. So it's nice to talk to people that have that entrepreneurial spirit and have that business mind to go in and do the stuff that you're doing, the stuff that Tim Wilkins is doing as far as like his TV things. Because you've branched out and do a presentation called the Power of the Smile, and I want to now, as long as it doesn't involve that creepy picture with you in the eyes, I think this is going to really, really do something. Tell me what this is about. The Power of the Smile. Thepowerofthesmile.net is the website. What is this?
Yeah. So in the corporate world, I realized that aside from just doing entertainment stuff, which is fine, but you can also get a lot more bookings if you have some content to talk about. And I'm not really an authority on anything besides comedy and the benefits from it. So I started doing research on what was out there, what kind of presentations corporate comedians were doing, and nobody really focused on just the smile and what smiling does. So in the research that I did, I realized that the benefits of smiling helps your psychology. It benefits your health as far as what it does for you physically, and most of all, what it does for your business and the people around you and how you're perceived. So in that presentation, I go over the facts, and I have a PowerPoint presentation that I do, and I just kind of go over the facts of how smiling benefits people, and really how focusing on it can really change the atmosphere at work.
See, what I'd like to do is I'd like to see some of your I'd like to see you do this to like Spirit Airlines attendants, flight attendants, or Frontier Airlines flight attendants, because
Right.
they don't smile. I mean, they work for a dump of a company, so I can understand that. Everybody comes on. They know the ticket they bought. They know what they're in for. They know they're in for a crappy ride, sitting on a lousy seat. They got to pay $12 for a cocktail, which, by the way, it is
That's right.
$12 if you want to buy an adult beverage on a Spirit Airlines flight. That is
Really?
Vegas Strip pricing. Yes. $12 for a
Wow.
cocktail on a Spirit airline. So yeah.
Well, I
So
just
yeah,
learned that.
I just say you go on an airline, you go into like a Delta or Southwest, like they're happy to be there. I mean, the
Mhm.
Southwest, open mic comedy scene, when they're doing the announcements is annoying as shit. But I mean, the
Yeah.
rest of the experience is awesome.
Well, I learned that they don't get paid until that door shuts. So all of their time in the airport, all of the questions that they're answering, everything, when people are coming into the plane and they're saying hello, their paycheck does not start until the door closes on the airplane. I didn't know that. And so now Delta is paying them for their time, as they step into the airport and, as they're working. So that's why they weren't smiling in the
Wow,
first
look at
place. They
that! A
weren't being
company
paid.
actually coming to the table and doing something that's going to benefit the employee. Who saw that coming?
Yeah. Yeah.
You and I have seen so many comedians do stupid stuff through the years, and I mean, we could sit there and have 20 podcasts of this.
Mhm.
What's the dumbest thing that you have seen a comedian do? And that is such an open-ended question. It could be on stage, it could be off stage. You don't need to mention the name of the person. I know there's a
Okay.
number of comedians that have reputations of doing stupid things on a consistent basis. But is there any moment that sticks out?
Yeah, there's a few. I mean, I just remember having openers that have just gone up and done some of the dumbest things, and they've tried to be experimental about something, on stage, and they've failed miserably. So I've had a guy, I won't mention his name, but he came on stage and immediately took his shirt off. The music is playing, the walk-up music, and whatever, the spirit hit him, and he took his shirt off and started spinning around and everything. So then once the music stopped, he's left there with his shirt off and his, big old titties and stomach hanging out and nothing to say about it. So it was fun for me to watch to see how he got out. But I'm like, you fucking asshole, what the fuck are you doing? So I
He was
saw, I
trying to be
mean,
Bert Kreischer, but he doesn't have an act. He didn't have an act to follow it.
right. There was
Kreischer comes
nothing to
out
stand.
there, no shirt, but he's got an act and he does his thing. So yeah, somebody who's going up there
Right.
trying to do that and then can't.
Right.
So
And this is well before Bert, I think, even did that. This was 12, 15 years ago. Did Bert always take his
right.
shirt off?
I don't know if he's always done it, but I know that that's his signature thing now.
Right. So I'll mention the name. I don't care anymore. Preacher. Preacher Lawson. So
Okay.
he featured for me when I was working for Bonkers in town, Bonkers Comedy Clubs on the east side of
Right.
Orlando. And it's like a bowling alley / comedy club. And he's not the only one that's guilty of this, by the way. I've seen so many comedians do this. He just happens to be the only one that bailed after doing it. So he goes up there and just cheerleads for about 10 minutes. There was not a joke to be told, just a bunch of screaming, hooping, and hollering. You've seen just an act go up there and just very high energy, turning flips, whooping and hollering like it's a football game. And
Right.
then nothing to follow it up with. And then they start trying to do jokes and there's nothing there. So that's what he did. And then he just bailed after that. At least I've seen, comedians, stick with it. So then I went on and I did my thing. But, to his credit, he came back the next day and did a 30-minute set and redeemed himself. But
Right.
it's just, I worry about the comedians these days, but there seems to be more outlets for them, and it's just such a crowded field now. I mean, when you and I started the 30 years ago, there were only about 3,000 to 4,000, and they thought it was too much then.
Right.
And now I can't even venture a guess how many there are, but the internet's made everything possible. But you and I were the guys that were sending out VHS tapes, by the
Oh
hundreds.
yeah. That costs some money. Sending off that crap.
Yeah, it did.
Sending off a big heavy VHS and then shoving your bio, your resume, your headshot, all that crap in there, only to send it off to a booker who got it and then tossed it in a corner and would only book you if they ended up getting a recommendation from somebody anyway. So which always cracks me up. What is the as we first your wife is was a Minnesota Vikings cheerleader. You met
Yeah.
her on a cruise ship.
Yeah. Right.
I mean,
So,
are
yeah.
you going to tell me about your esteemed career on the Minnesota Vikings practice squad? You can make it up. I'm not going to Google it or anything. You can go ahead and just say you were a third string
I'll be
quarterback.
honest,
I'm not going to stop you.
I couldn't
Look at you,
even
you're
throw the
ripped.
footballs in. I know.
So
So,
you met her on you met her on a cruise ship. Did you? Did
yeah,
she just come right out and
I
say
don't
she
know
was
if
a
you've ever
Vikings cheerleader? I mean, she's a very attractive lady.
Thank you. So I was reading a book by Barbara DeAngelis called Real Moments. And she was talking about just take advantage of the things that you have in front of you and, deal with them now. Don't have regret later on in life that you didn't take action. So I'm walking around the ship on Holland America, and she and her best friend are walking around, and they stick out like a sore thumb because everybody on Holland America
Well, yeah,
is
because they're
anciently old.
70 years younger than everybody else on board.
Right. And yeah, exactly. I mean, oxygen tanks, wheelchairs everywhere. So she is walking around with her best friend. They're in their early 20s, and I'm like, oh, oh. So you know how they take your picture on the ship, and she
Sure.
wanted to take a picture with some old man that was walking by. She and her friend, like, let's take a picture with that old man that we don't even know. And the old man was like, forget it. So I happened to be walking by. I just got done with reading this book, getting all jazzed up, and I said, I'll take a picture with you. So I don't think you have this in your production, so I'll put it up to the camera. That is the picture of
Hang on. Oh, let's go
us.
full screen, Sean. Let me see that here. Oh, hang on. Slide it. Wow. Look at you. Hold this still. You look like Richard Marx.
Oh, totally. Mullet and everything. I'm sorry, I can't.
I love it. No, that's great. That's a
So
great
that's her
shot.
on the left side of the screen, the longer hair, not
Okay.
the black hair.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
that's
Gotcha.
the moment that we met. That is the exact moment that we met. And so
Wow.
we had a week-long date on the ship, and then I moved to Minnesota maybe 6 or 7 months after that. We were engaged, and we were married a year after that. So,
Wow.
but
A
yeah, she was a
comedian moved
Minnesota
in.
Vikings
A
cheerleader.
comedian moved in with a woman. Who saw that coming?
Yeah, but I wasn't really competing with these football guys. She wasn't really with them for very long. Um,
Right.
uh, it was a brief stint with the Minnesota Vikings. Let's
Sure.
call it that. But yeah, we've been married it'll be 25 years in August.
Wow. Congratulations. What is the? Let me wrap up here with this question here because I always like asking this to people. What is the dumbest thing that you've done?
The dumbest thing that I've done. That's such a great question. Um, I think it's more of like a series of dumb things because I keep doing it. But
That's the definition of insanity, by the way. But continue.
it is because I'm a serial entrepreneurial guy. I don't know how to say it. I'm a serial
Mhm.
entrepreneur. So I keep on starting businesses, and most of them have failed miserably. Like I had a 32-inch flat screen TV on top of a 7-foot inflatable with a man inside, and I actually got a patent for that. It was called Flathead Ads. So I put like $30,000 into this thing, got it patented and everything, and it's doing nothing. So I just wonder why the fuck I did it. So and here's another one. So this is the series of dumb shit things. So I did a food truck with my wife. All of these are attempts to stay home, to not travel as much. So we started a
Food
food
trucks are
truck
good
called Laura's
ideas.
Lasagna. Yeah, but it was a horrible idea because we were selling hot food in hot weather. And so it was lasagna in a food truck in hot weather. Stupid. So other things that I was going to do, I started a company called Dollar Birthday Club, which was a website where you can donate $1 to your friend and also donate $1 or more to your favorite charity all automatically at the same time. It was called Dollar Birthday Club. And it was to help out your friend with some money for their birthday and help out St. Jude with money for that. And I spent 40 grand on that. It failed miserably, miserably. So I'm still up on my feet again. What else did I do? Dollar Birthday
Give a
Club.
dollar to your friend. That's even worse than the card that your grandma would give you that had like $5 in it. You give it a
I
dollar.
thought it would
That
be
is
an
just such
automatic
a
thing.
that's such a douchebag move. Hey, here's a buck.
Yeah, but there he is busting my balls again. See, but if 20 to 200 of your friends did it, then you have some money in your pocket. And the way
Sure.
that we structured it is we let everybody know, hey, send $1 to this guy, but nobody gave a fuck. So Oh, I've had some horrible things. I mean, I was going to be an airline pilot and I pursued that. I bought an airplane. I bought a Cessna 150 with my neighbor and I was training in it. And then the pandemic put an end to that. So I was going to be an airline pilot and retire as a comedian and didn't do that. So serial entrepreneurialism has led to open bar comedy. The whole point is if this one feels right. This one is so well supported as the idea feels well supported amongst comedians in the club and everybody involved. So I think I finally have a winner after about 10 failures.
Well, I'll tell you what. If all the if the lasagna food truck hits the plane on the runway and is given $1 from a handful of people, and it creates open bar comedy, which ends up being wildly successful, which I know it's going to be. Please, people, follow Open Bar Comedy on social media. It's going to launch on in January of 2023, filming some fantastic comedians. And if you don't believe me, go ahead and look these people up. Look up on YouTube. Find the clips that are out there right now, and you'll see how funny these people are that are being recorded for this for the special and also for this platform. Ron Feingold, you serial entrepreneurial nut job. You're fantastic, my friend. Always good to see you. RonFeingold.com, Open Bar Comedy. Follow the platform and subscribe when it comes live come January 2023. Thank you so much for your time, buddy. I appreciate you.
I love you, man. Thanks so much for everything. Take care.
You're awesome, man. Take care, bud. Ron Feingold. RonFeingold.com is his website. Follow him on social media. And again, check out Open Bar Comedy. And while you're out there on the interwebs, make sure you check out my album, Double Down. You can go ahead and snag that on iTunes, Spotify, and Amazon, recorded live at Laugh-In Comedy Cafe down in Fort Myers, Florida. And go to my website, DerekRichards.com, to find out when I'm going to be in your neck of the woods. Michigan coming up, Ann Arbor, May 20th and 21st. I'll be in Des Moines, Iowa, and then also in Las Vegas, June 27th to July 3rd at the Comedy Cellar at the Rio Hotel and Casino. Thank you so much for tuning in here today. Derek Richards here on A Drink with Derek, and I will see you next time. Bye.
You're watching Conservative Television of America, working hard to stick socialism where the sun don't shine.